Yamaguchi, as you know, since the outbreak of the Boshin War, we, the Eizu clan, have been rebelling against the new government.
Yes, Niwa Dono. Even after the establishment of the new government's power, we are still forced to fight on the side of the old shogunate. In this context, how did the Battle of Nihonmatsu begin?
In May 1868, the new government forces were advancing northward and closing in on our Eizu domain. Nihonmatsu was a strategically important point, and defense here would determine the survival of the clan.
What was your strategy at that time?
We had fortified Nihonmatsu Castle and defended the castle town. However, the enemy greatly outnumbered us, and the battle was expected to be severe.
What were some of the most important aspects of defending the castle and its surroundings?
We had two main goals: to take advantage of the terrain around the castle and, above all, to keep up morale. However, the pressure from the new government forces was stronger than we had imagined, and gradually our line of defense began to be pushed.
What was Niwa Dono's state of mind at that time?
It was a painful decision. Many young men, clansmen including the Nihonmatsu Boys Corps, were fighting for their lives. In the face of their bravery, my heart always felt a heavy burden.
How was the morale of the boys?
They showed tremendous courage, as if they were the future of the clan. But at the same time, it was also a cause of pain in my heart. It is unbearable to see innocent young people lose their future.
As the battle progressed, how did things change with the new government forces?
The offensive of the new government forces became more intense, and by May we had suffered heavy losses. The battle lines were gradually reduced and we were even pushed into the castle.
How did the last resistance in the castle proceed?
The battle inside the castle was truly a fight to the death. However, the superiority of the enemy in numbers and equipment was undeniable, and the hope of defending the war gradually faded.
In such a desperate situation, how did Niwa Dono inspire the clan members?
We always kept our voice in the front line to keep our pride until the end. Let's show them the spirit of Eizu. But in my heart, I always hoped for their safety.
What will be the fate of the Eizu clan after it finally falls into the hands of the new government forces?
Eizu was forced to surrender and many of its samurai were punished. I myself spent the rest of my life with regrets.
Niwa Dono, nevertheless, the pride of being a samurai of the Eizu clan is still spoken of by many.
Yes, our battle is over, but the spirit of Eizu lives on. That is probably the only salvation we have left.
Dear Mr. Niwa, let me tell you how the Battle of Nihonmatsu became inevitable and the reasons behind it.
Okay, Yamaguchi, let me ask you that. What started the fire in the first place?
First, the upheaval at the end of the Edo period and external pressure played a major role in the background of the establishment of the new Meiji government. The major change of opening the country to the outside world led to distrust of the existing power structure, especially the shogunate.
Indeed, we felt it too. But the concentration of power by the new government was also unacceptable to us.
That is correct. The new government tried to unify the country as quickly as possible, but in the process, many of the old shogunate supporting clans, especially those in the Tohoku region, felt a strong sense of alienation.
And the Eizu clan was one of them. We questioned the policies of the new government and decided to resist.
The question arose from the clash between the new government's rapid reforms and the old values. In particular, the Eizu clan was based on the principle of the emperor's exclusion of foreigners, wasn't it?
However, the new government did not understand this and took a hardline stance. This resulted in a deep rift between us.
That rift led to the Battle of Nihonmatsu. The new government forces continued northward, clashing with the Eizu clan along the way.
Strategically, Nihonmatsu was in a very important position. Protecting this area was directly related to the survival of the clan.
Yes, that is correct. Nihonmatsu was the front line for the Eizu clan, and losing it would have affected the fate of the clan, and at the same time, it was the site of their last stand against the new government.
That resistance would ultimately lead to tragedy.
However, under the circumstances, there was no other option for us. We had to take the best possible measures to counter the overwhelming military power of the new government forces.
In terms of tactics, what kind of preparation did you do?
They dug the moat of the castle deeper, fortified the walls, and stored provisions. They also had the clan's soldiers train from beginning to end in anticipation of an enemy invasion.
Still, the new government force's superiority in terms of technology and numbers is undeniable.
Yes, they certainly did. They used modern weapons and tactics, which was a departure from our traditional way of fighting.
In addition to that, the new government side excelled in information warfare. They kept abreast of our movements and changed their tactics accordingly.
As a result, our strategy gradually became ineffective and overwhelming.
I wonder if we had changed our strategy then, would the outcome have been different?
No one knows for sure. But we judged the situation at the time to be the best we could do, and we acted accordingly. We have no regrets.
Indeed, we fought with pride as a clan. There is no difference in that.
And that pride is still spoken of by many today. Our battle was not just a defeat, but in a way it also led to the establishment of new values.
New values, huh? That may be the foundation of Japan to this day.
That is exactly right. Niwa Dono, our battle is over, but the spirit of the battle lives on. We must not forget that.
A long time has passed since the battle ended, but the impact of the Battle of Nihonmatsu on Aizu was enormous. For the people of Aizu, life after the battle must have been completely different.
Indeed, the victory of the new government forces fundamentally changed the social structure of the Aizu clan itself. In particular, the fates of clan members and their families were transformed overnight.
The sacrifices of the young clansmen were especially great in the battle, and their bravery is still spoken of today. However, it is also true that their heroic actions, on the other hand, resulted in many tragedies.
That is correct. After the war, Aizu lost many talented young people, which had a significant impact on the development of the region. In terms of education, had they survived, Aizu's future might have been different.
As a result of the battle, the concentration of power by the new government was further strengthened. This can be said to have been one of the factors that accelerated the progress of the Meiji Restoration.
In fact, after this battle, the political system throughout Japan was drastically changed and a centralized system of government was established. The loss of local autonomy forced many clans to adapt to the new system.
The policies of the new government led to a similar fate not only for Aizu, but for many other clans as well. This marked the end of an era.
However, it can also be said that the transformation led Japan to become a modern nation. This is because opening the country to the outside world and modernization were essential for Japan to maintain its independence on the international stage.
Under the new political regime, Japan has indeed undergone a major transformation. It was also a step toward establishing its international standing.
After the Boshin War, Japan underwent a major cultural transformation. Western technology and thought were introduced, which became the basis for the diversity of Japanese culture that exists today.
The transformation of culture has also brought a new wind in people's lives. However, many things were lost as a result. In particular, the loss of the way of the samurai was a great blow to many clan members.
The arrival of a new era was both a challenge and an opportunity for many. Reforms in the educational system and economic development created new professions and lifestyles.
Certainly, the new education system provided knowledge and skills to many people and helped raise the intellectual level of society as a whole.
The Battle of Nihonmatsu and the subsequent changes that took place afterward represent a major turning point in Japanese history, and it is our responsibility to convey its significance to the present.
That's right. There are many lessons to be learned from history. Through the events of the past, we should use this knowledge to improve our future.
Although many memories of the battle are sad, we must not forget that it was the foundation for building a new Japan beyond it.
Our generation lived through that transitional period. We have a responsibility to pass on that experience to the next generation so that they will not repeat the same mistakes.
It is said that history repeats itself, but if we can learn and grow through the repetition, that is true progress.
By looking back on the battle, We are reminded of the importance of peace and have the opportunity to consider what we must do to preserve it.
And it is in times of peace that cultural, scientific, and economic development is possible. Against the backdrop of the tragedy of war, we should strive for a better future.
War takes much, but it also teaches us much as a result. Our mission is to apply those lessons and strive to build a more ideal society.
There is no end to what we can learn from the battle. It is important that we continue to think about and shape the future of Japan based on the knowledge and experience we gain from these battles.
That is exactly right. For by looking back at history, we gain the courage and wisdom to take a new step forward. Yamaguchi, I am still searching for the answer to what we were trying to protect during the battle. The future of our clan, or something greater.
Niwa Dono, we were trying to protect the independence of our clan and the principle of the emperor's exclusion of foreigners. However, many young people were sacrificed in the process. I am still tormented by this fact.
The same is true for me. Every time I saw young men and women fall on the battlefield, I asked myself if my clan's decisions were robbing them of their future.
However, we never doubted that resisting the new government was justified at the time. That was our pride and belief.
Justice sometimes comes at a heavy price. I am sometimes driven by doubt as to whether our resistance to the war has really led to the welfare of the people of the clan.
Niwa Dono, I share your doubts. However, at the time, we could see no other option but to protect our clan from the oppressive policies of the new government.
That is the irony of history. Sometimes, it is out of our control how our decisions, with limited options, will be evaluated by future generations.
Indeed, the reputation of history is subject to change. But we did our best for the clan and, above all, for the people of that era. That will never change.
Despite our best efforts, we were defeated and many clan members lost their lives. This fact remains as a deep wound in my heart.
I, too, spend many a night thinking back to the battles of that day, and what I wish had been done differently.
But, Yamaguchi, nothing can be changed by looking back. All we can do is draw on the lessons of the past and leave something for the future.
That's right. If our experience can shed some light to future generations, it will justify our actions.
To pass on the pride of Eizu to the next generation. I feel again that this is our mission.
Yes, pride as a clan and as individual samurai. It is our remaining task to pass them on to the future.
The courage of the clan members and the devotion of the young men and women they showed in battle. They should never be forgotten.
And they should be used to educate a new generation. Courage and dedication, plus a spirit of reconciliation and conviviality.
A spirit of symbiosis. We need it in this new era. Not as a completion in our generation, but as part of a constantly evolving history.
History is a living thing. What will each of our actions convey to the next generation? We must always be aware of this and act accordingly.
Maybe that's the biggest lesson we can learn from history. We need to think deeply about how our choices will affect the future.
Dear Mr. Niwa, I have reaffirmed many things through our dialogue. I hope to continue to apply the lessons learned for the sake of Eizu and, more importantly, for the sake of Japan.
Yamaguchi, we need young power like yours to make this happen. Please build a new era based on our experience.
Yes, Niwa Dono, I too have learned much from this conversation. I will do my best for the future of Eizu and Japan.
I am relieved to hear that. We learn and teach from both our mistakes and our successes. That is our role.
Thank you, Lord Niwa. We will move forward with our responsibility to the future of Eizu and our posterity.
Yamaguchi, how do you think the Battle of Nihonmatsu affected our society?
Lord Niwa, this battle had a major impact not only on the Eizu clan, but also on the surrounding areas. The change in social structure is particularly remarkable.
I would like to see specific examples of these changes.
First, in the clan's economy, the destruction and resource depletion caused by the war was enormous. This led to a prolonged stagnation of the local economy.
Indeed, the depletion of wartime supplies dealt a direct blow to the people's livelihood.
In addition, agriculture, which was the foundation of people's lives, was greatly affected. Many farmlands became battlefields, and the amount of abandoned farmland increased.
This led to food shortages, and the suffering of the people deepened.
Yes, and the cultural impact cannot be overlooked. From the destruction wrought by the war, many cultural assets have been lost and the historical identity of the region has been damaged.
The loss of historic buildings and literature is indeed a great loss. But that is not the only impact the battle has had on the local culture.
Yes, in some aspects, wars have given birth to new songs and stories, which have enriched the culture in other ways.
War changes people's values and worldview, which in turn affects the creation of culture. That is one ironic outcome.
The battle was also important in terms of relations with the new government. The resistance of the Eizu clan influenced the attitude of other clans toward the new government.
Indeed, Eizu's resistance provided important lessons for the new government's subsequent policy toward local clans.
The new government punished the Eizu clan severely, but it can be said that this later became an opportunity to promote reconciliation between the clan members and the new government.
The process of reconciliation that followed the end of the war became a place where old and new values merged, laying the foundation for a new era.
However, the process was not an easy one. Many clan members struggled to adapt to the new era.
Adapting to the new political system was a major challenge, especially for the former shogunate clansmen. They were forced to redefine their identity.
In this respect, the Battle of Nihonmatsu was a turning point of sorts in the larger trend of Japan's modernization.
Even after the battle was over, its influence remained in Japanese society for a long time. In particular, the modernization of education and laws was in no small part due to the experience of the battle.
Reforms in the educational system by the new government helped to raise the level of knowledge throughout the nation and promote integration as a nation.
However, it is also true that while education was modernized, the importance of traditional learning and skills declined.
The challenge for us in this new era is to strike a balance between the two.
Not at all. What we should learn from history is not to regret the past, but to think about how to live in the future.
It is also important to ensure that the lessons learned in the process are passed on to the next generation.
History teaches us many lessons. We must take those lessons and use them as guideposts to build a better future.
To do so, we ourselves must confront history and understand its meaning in depth.
To correctly pass on the memory of the battle to the next generation. That is our responsibility and mission.
That is exactly right, Mr. Niwa. Because by telling our history, we can make a great contribution to the future.
Yamaguchi, today it seems the time has come for us to discuss the truth that we could not talk about before.
Yes, Niwa Dono, I feel that now is the time for me to reveal the thoughts and feelings that I have been harboring deep in my heart.
In the fight we had to make many decisions. But I can say this now. I have deep regrets about the decisions I made at that time.
I take your words very seriously, Mr. Niwa. I am also acutely aware that I have made mistakes due to my youth.
We fought believing that we were protecting the future of Eizu. However, this resulted in sending many young people into battle.
The weight of this loss is still on my shoulders. Many innocent lives were lost because of our decision.
Yamaguchi, don't you think we should have looked for other ways out of that battle?
If I could go back in time, I would try to have more dialogue and find a way to avoid bloodshed. However, given the circumstances of the time,
well, the situation being what it was, there may have been no other way but to fight. But still, we should have respected the future of the young people more.
I agree with you. They should have given them more options.
Yamaguchi, how our actions have brought sorrow to so many families.
Yes, that is a heavy responsibility and one that we must carry with us for the rest of our lives.
However, I would like to believe that the courage and loyalty shown by the clan members in the process was not in vain.
Indeed, their bravery has touched many people and carries the spirit of Eizu to this day.
Yes, the spirit of Eizu lives on beyond the battle. That is our only salvation.
Learn from our mistakes and take lessons for the future. If we can do that, we can say that their sacrifices were not in vain.
The lessons learned in battle must be properly passed on to the next generation. That is our responsibility.
Dear Mr. Niwa, through our dialogue, Many truths have been revealed. Let us continue this sincere dialogue.
Yamaguchi, I agree wholeheartedly with your words. I hope our experience will bring some light to the future.
And we hope that this historical truth we have told you has been meaningful to you, our readers.
Dear readers, thank you very much for your long-time patience with us. We hope our story has been of some help. Thank you for watching. How was it? This video is automatically generated by AI.
I'm not quite there yet, but if you'd like to subscribe to my channel, I'd love to hear from you.
Thank you for watching. What did you think? This video was automatically generated by AI. We still have many areas to improve, but if you don't mind, we would be grateful if you could subscribe to our channel.